It was a cold morning in Rome, and the streets were alive with footsteps, voices, and the weight of the world pressing down on the shoulders of its people. Somewhere in the chaos, a man walked with quiet confidence. He did not fight the rush, nor did he hurry. He simply moved, steady and calm, as if the storm around him had no power over his soul. His name was Epictetus, a slave turned philosopher, a man who had nothing yet possessed everything, because he had mastered himself. Centuries have passed, but the world has not changed. People still chase what they cannot control, still break under pressure, still search for meaning in places where it does not exist. Yet, the wisdom of the Stoics remains, offering a way to stand firm when everything else crumbles. This is not a book of abstract ideas. It is a guide to living with strength, clarity, and purpose. Life will test you. There will be losses, failures, and moments of doubt. But there is a way to remain unshaken, a way to face hardship without losing yourself, a way to master the mind, control desires, and rise above fear. This is for those who refuse to be ruled by circumstances, for those who seek a steady hand in an unsteady world. The path is old, but its power is timeless. Chapter 1: The Unstraightforward Guide to Straight Thinking. Most people go through life assuming they think clearly. They trust their instincts, follow their emotions, and believe what feels right in the moment. They are confident in their opinions, certain about their choices, and convinced that they see the world as it is. But thinking straight isn't as simple as it seems. The mind is full of blind spots, biases, and illusions that shape decisions without notice. It tells comforting lies, distorts reality to fit emotions, and leads people into traps of their own making. One moment, a person is convinced they are acting rationally. The next, they realize they have been driven by anger, fear, or pride. The Stoics understood this all too well. They knew that a mind left untrained is a mind easily controlled by emotions, by social pressures, by external events. They saw how people let their desires and fears dictate their thoughts, how they clung to comforting beliefs rather than hard truths, and how they mistook loud voices for wisdom. That is why they trained their minds, not just to acquire knowledge, but to think with clarity, to see things as they truly are, and to avoid the traps of impulsive thinking. Without clear thinking, there is no clear living. A person wakes up in the morning and immediately reaches for their phone. Before their mind has fully woken up, they are flooded with news designed to spark outrage, advertisements telling them what they should want, and social media posts making them feel like their life is not enough. The world does not encourage deep thought. It encourages reaction, quick, emotional, and automatic. It rewards those who are confident, not necessarily those who are correct. It pushes people to take sides before they understand the full picture, to form opinions before they have all the facts, and to follow the crowd instead of questioning it. In such a world, thinking clearly is not just useful, it is an act of resistance. It is the difference between being in control of your life and being controlled by everything around you. Straight thinking does not mean thinking without emotion. It does not mean shutting out intuition or ignoring the human side of decision making. It means understanding how emotions influence thought and knowing when they help and when they mislead. It means recognizing when pride is making you defend a belief that is wrong, when fear is stopping you from taking the right action, or when anger is blinding your judgment. It means questioning assumptions instead of accepting them, resisting manipulation instead of falling for it, and searching for truth rather than what is comfortable. It is about thinking with discipline, not impulse, about seeing reality, not what you wish reality to be. This is not easy. It requires effort. It requires the ability to slow down when the world is rushing, to pause when emotions demand immediate action, and to think when others simply react. But for those willing to do the work, the reward is great. A mind that is not easily shaken, a life that is not easily controlled, a way of thinking that leads not just to intelligence, but to wisdom. Chapter 2: The Toolbox: Logic, Physics, and Ethics. Imagine preparing for a journey, and someone gives you a toolbox before you begin. Inside are a few key tools, each serving a different purpose, but all essential for the journey. Some are sharp, designed for clear thinking and reasoning. Others are grounding, helping you understand the world as it is. The most important tool, however, is the one that guides how you live and treat others. These tools belong to the Stoics, and they are still just as powerful and relevant today as they were centuries ago. The Stoic toolbox consists of three essential tools: logic, physics, and ethics. First, logic, the sharpest tool in the box. Life is full of twists, turns, and complexities, making it easy to get lost in the maze of emotions, desires, and external pressures. We all make decisions, but not all of them are made clearly or wisely. Emotions, bias, and assumptions often cloud our judgment, leading to impulsive and irrational actions. This is where logic comes in. Logic is about reasoning. It helps you make sense of the world when everything feels chaotic. It teaches you how to think through problems, understand situations clearly, and avoid the pitfalls of faulty thinking. With logic, you move beyond snap judgments and make decisions based on clear, rational thought. It's like having a map for your mind, guiding you through life's challenges with a steady hand. The Stoics knew that without logic, your thoughts would be scattered and your actions would be driven by confusion and emotion. Logic helps you cut through the noise and find the truth beneath. It's not just for philosophers, it's for anyone who wants to live with focus, intention, and clarity. Next, physics, though not in the scientific sense. For the Stoics, physics means understanding the nature of the world and the universe. It's about recognizing how things work, knowing what is within your control, and accepting what lies beyond it. There are countless things in the world we cannot change: other people's actions, natural events, or the passage of time. The Stoics believed that resisting the uncontrollable was pointless. Instead, they advocated for peace through acceptance of life's natural flow and focusing on what you can control: your thoughts, actions, and responses. Physics, in this sense, isn't about trying to manipulate the world, but understanding it as it is and finding peace within it. By viewing the world this way, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering caused by things you cannot change. The Stoics didn't passively accept everything that happened, but they recognized the difference between what they could influence and what was beyond their reach. In doing so, they cultivated calm and resilience, regardless of external circumstances. Physics teaches you to live in harmony with the universe, to flow with its natural order, and to accept that some things are simply out of your control. Then there's ethics, the tool that shapes our actions and defines who we are. Ethics is about making the right choices, living with integrity, and treating others with kindness and respect. It's about aligning your actions with your values and understanding what truly matters in life. Without ethics, logic and physics lose their purpose. Logic helps you think clearly, and physics helps you understand the world, but ethics provides the moral framework to make decisions that reflect who you want to be. It's about choosing virtue over vice, acting with courage, justice, and wisdom, regardless of external circumstances. Ethics teaches you that the right path is often the hardest, but it always leads to peace, fulfillment, and a life well lived. For the Stoics, ethics wasn't just a theory, it was the daily practice of being a good person, living with purpose, even when the world around you might push you in the opposite direction. It's about living according to your highest values, even when temptation or pressure pulls you elsewhere. Together, logic, physics, and ethics form a powerful toolkit for navigating life. Each tool serves a distinct purpose, and when used together, they prepare you to face whatever comes your way. Logic helps you think clearly and make wise decisions. Physics helps you understand the world, accept what you cannot control, and find peace in the process. Ethics guides you to live a life aligned with your values, making choices that reflect who you truly are. By combining these three tools, you're not merely reacting to life, you're shaping it. You navigate challenges with clarity, understanding, and purpose. You don't let external forces control your happiness or decisions. The Stoics understood that these tools are essential for a good life. While the world may have changed in many ways, these tools remain just as crucial today as they were thousands of years ago. Chapter 3: Some things are up to us, others are not. In life, we frequently encounter situations where some things are completely out of our control and others are entirely within our power. The challenge lies in knowing the difference. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by circumstances, wanting to control everything around us, and thinking it's our responsibility to make things go as we desire. But the truth is, some things are simply beyond our control, no matter how hard we try. The Stoics understood this distinction and believed that the secret to living a peaceful and fulfilling life lies in recognizing what is within our control and what is not. We often spend too much time trying to control things that are not ours to control. How often do we waste our energy trying to change someone's mind, wishing we could influence the outcome of a situation, or desperately attempting to shape the world around us to meet our expectations? The reality is, we can't control the actions of others, the weather, or the course of events. Yet we frequently become frustrated when things don't go as planned. We let circumstances control our moods, emotions, and reactions, when the only thing we can truly control is how we respond. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. You've planned everything meticulously, but suddenly you find yourself sitting in a line of cars, inching forward slowly. In that moment, frustration begins to rise. Your plans are being disrupted, your time is slipping away, and you have no control over the situation. But here's the truth: the traffic, the road conditions, the other drivers, they are all beyond your control. No matter how upset you get, you can't change any of it. What you can control is how you respond to the situation. Will you let frustration build and ruin your day? Or will you accept the situation, make the best of the time, and move forward with a clear mind? This is where the Stoic mindset comes in. The Stoics teach us that we don't have to control everything around us. In fact, we can't. There are countless forces at work in the world: other people's actions, random events, circumstances beyond our reach. But what we can control is our response to these things. We control how we think about them, how we react emotionally, and how we choose to act in the face of adversity. The key to peace is the ability to differentiate between what we can change and what we cannot. For the Stoics, this isn't just an idea, it's a way of life. They recognize that most human suffering stems from trying to control what is beyond our reach. The belief that we should be able to shape the world around us to fit our desires leads to frustration and unhappiness. But when we accept that some things will always be outside our control, we can shift our focus. Instead of attempting to control the uncontrollable, we can direct our energy toward the things we can control: our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. Take another example. Imagine working hard on a project for weeks only to face a setback. Maybe there's a delay, or someone else makes a mistake that affects your progress. In that moment, it's easy to get upset, blame others, and feel as if everything is falling apart. But again, this situation highlights the distinction between what is within your control and what is not. You can't change what others do or undo a mistake that has already happened, but you can control how you respond to the setback. You can choose to remain calm, find a solution, and keep moving forward. Or you can let frustration and anger take over, preventing you from moving past the situation. The choice is yours. The Stoics emphasize this distinction in every aspect of life. They teach that we must let go of things we can't control. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. It means accepting that some things are beyond our influence and learning to move with life rather than against it. It's not about resigning ourselves to fate. It's about understanding where our true power lies. We can control our thoughts, actions, and responses. We can choose to remain calm in the face of difficulty, act with integrity, and stay true to our values. When we focus on these things, we stop wasting energy on what we can't change and start investing it in what truly matters. This mindset applies to nearly every part of life. Relationships, for example, often bring frustration when others don't behave as we expect. But it's crucial to remember that other people's actions and choices are beyond our control. We can't make them act the way we want, and trying to do so only leads to disappointment. What we can control is how we respond to them, how we show up in the relationship, communicate, and treat others. The same principle applies to work, health, and every other aspect of life. There will always be things beyond our control. The key is focusing on what we can influence. In the end, understanding the difference between what's up to us and what's not is one of the most powerful tools we can have. When we accept that we can't control everything, we free ourselves from the constant frustration and anxiety of trying to change the uncontrollable. We learn to live with more peace and less stress because we're no longer fighting against life. We're moving with it. By focusing on our own thoughts, actions, and responses, we gain a sense of control over our lives that is far more meaningful than attempting to manipulate everything around us. In doing so, we find the strength to navigate life's challenges with grace, wisdom, and resilience. Chapter 4: Living According to Nature. Imagine living in harmony with the world around you, where you embrace life as it comes, not fighting against the flow, but aligning with it. This is the essence of living according to nature, a core principle that the Stoics taught. It's about understanding that life has its natural rhythm, its cycles, and its ups and downs. Instead of resisting this natural order, we are encouraged to accept it, adapt to it, and work with it rather than against it. The Stoics believed that by living according to nature, we could lead a life of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. But what does living according to nature really mean? It's not about retreating into the wilderness or abandoning society, as some might think. It's about understanding the natural laws that govern both the universe and human life. The Stoics saw nature as the ultimate teacher. Everything in nature has a purpose, a role to play in the grand scheme of things. Humans are part of this grand system, and we find our true purpose by aligning with the natural world, not by fighting against it. This means accepting our place in the universe and recognizing that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. It's about understanding that, just as the sun rises and sets and the seasons change, life too has its own cycles, and we must learn to flow with them. Living according to nature also means understanding what is natural for humans. Stoics believe that humans are rational beings, capable of reason and virtue. To live naturally, we must cultivate our rational minds, use our ability to reason, and strive to live virtuously. This is what sets us apart from other creatures. We have the capacity for wisdom, justice, courage, and self discipline. By living in accordance with these virtues, we align ourselves with our true nature. Instead of being swept away by our emotions or desires, we use our rational minds to guide us. This is where the Stoic idea of living virtuously intersects with the natural world. By living virtuously, we are fulfilling our role as rational beings in a natural world. The Stoics also understood that the natural world is constantly changing. Just as the seasons shift, so do the circumstances of our lives. We can't always control these changes, but we can control how we respond to them. Living according to nature means accepting the ebb and flow of life, recognizing that challenges and setbacks are a natural part of existence. Instead of resisting them, we can learn to embrace them as opportunities for growth. For instance, if we experience hardship or failure, we don't see it as something unnatural or unjust. Instead, we recognize it as a part of life's natural rhythm, an opportunity to grow stronger, to practice resilience, and to cultivate patience. The Stoics believed that every moment of difficulty is a chance to live out our virtues, to demonstrate courage, and to show ourselves how to handle life's challenges with grace. Uh, to live according to nature also means letting go of the artificial boundaries and pressures that society often places on us. In the modern world, we are constantly told what we should want, how we should look, and what we should achieve. We're pressured to fit into a mold that is often disconnected from our true nature. The Stoics taught that we should resist this pressure. Instead of chasing after external success or trying to meet society's expectations, we should focus on what truly matters, living a life of virtue, wisdom, and tranquility. This doesn't mean rejecting society entirely, but rather refusing to be controlled by its superficial standards. The Stoic idea of living according to nature encourages us to listen to our own inner wisdom and to seek fulfillment in alignment with our deepest values, not the fleeting desires that society pushes on us. But living according to nature isn't just about accepting external events, it's also about taking responsibility for our inner world. The Stoics understood that our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are a part of our nature, and they believe that we have the power to shape them. We are not slaves to our emotions or our circumstances. Through practice, we can cultivate the wisdom to see things clearly, the courage to face life's challenges, and the self discipline to make choices aligned with our highest values. Living according to nature for the Stoics was about mastering our inner world as much as it was about accepting the world around us. In a world that often feels chaotic and out of control, living according to nature offers a simple and profound path. It invites us to stop fighting against life's challenges, to accept what we cannot change, and to focus on what is truly within our control: our thoughts, our actions, and our character. It's about returning to our roots, to the natural wisdom that exists within us and the world around us. When we live in alignment with nature, we live with purpose, peace, and clarity. The Stoics believed that this was the key to a good life, a life of virtue, resilience, and true fulfillment. By embracing our role in the natural world and living according to nature's laws, we can find a deep sense of harmony and contentment. Chapter 5: Virtues and Vices. In a world full of distractions, temptations, and challenges, how do we know what path to follow? The Stoics believed the answer lay in understanding the difference between virtues and vices. These two fundamental aspects of our character shape our actions, thoughts, and ultimately our lives. Virtues, according to the Stoics, are the qualities that help us live in alignment with nature and our true selves, while vices are the behaviors that lead us away from our best potential, trapping us in cycles of suffering and dissatisfaction. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the idea that our goal should be to cultivate virtues, traits like wisdom, courage, justice, and self discipline. These virtues are not merely abstract ideas, but practical qualities we can develop and apply in our daily lives. They provide a roadmap for making choices that lead to fulfillment and peace. For the Stoics, the pursuit of virtue was not a matter of seeking external rewards, but about living in a way that reflects our highest nature. Wisdom, the first of the cardinal virtues, is about knowing what is true and understanding how to apply that knowledge to live well. It's the ability to see the world as it truly is, not clouded by illusions, biases, or desires. Wisdom helps us make informed decisions and navigate life's challenges with clarity. It's the foundation for all other virtues because it allows us to understand the consequences of our actions and choose wisely, based on reason, rather than emotion. In everyday life, wisdom could mean recognizing that not all our desires are beneficial or acknowledging that our judgment can be clouded by temporary feelings. It's about thinking before acting and making choices that align with our deeper values and long term well being. Courage, the second virtue, is the strength to face challenges, adversity, and fear. It's about not letting obstacles or difficulties deter us from doing what is right. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. It's about showing up for what matters, even when it's hard. Courage can take many forms: standing up for what's just, being honest in difficult situations, or pushing forward when things get tough. The Stoics taught that true courage involves accepting the inevitability of hardship and facing it with dignity and strength, rather than running from it or succumbing to it. Justice, the third virtue, is about fairness, respect, and treating others with kindness and integrity. It's the recognition that we are all connected as human beings, and our actions should reflect this interconnectedness. Justice calls us to act with fairness and compassion, ensuring that we contribute positively to society and the world around us. This virtue isn't just about following laws or societal rules, it's about doing what is right for the greater good, even when it's difficult or unpopular. In practice, justice means making decisions that are in line with the well being of others and ensuring that we act with empathy and integrity. Self discipline, the final virtue, is about mastering ourselves, our desires, impulses, and habits. It's the ability to choose what is right over what is easy and to maintain control over our actions and emotions. Self discipline helps us stay focused on what truly matters without being sidetracked by momentary pleasures or distractions. It's the virtue that allows us to persist in the face of temptation or laziness and maintain our commitment to our values and goals. In everyday life, self discipline might look like sticking to a healthy routine, avoiding impulsive spending, or choosing to work on long term goals even when it feels uncomfortable. While virtues guide us toward a fulfilling life, vices pull us in the opposite direction. Vices are destructive habits or traits that lead us away from our true potential. They are the opposite of virtues and result in suffering, confusion, and discontent. The Stoics identified several key vices, such as greed, anger, pride, and laziness, that hinder our growth and prevent us from living virtuous lives. Greed is a vice that drives us to constantly seek more money, more power, more possessions, without ever feeling satisfied. It's an endless craving that blinds us to what we truly need and disconnects us from our values. Greed leads us to prioritize material gain over relationships, well being, or peace of mind. It keeps us trapped in a cycle of desire that can never be fulfilled, no matter how much we acquire. Anger is another vice that disturbs our peace of mind and clouds our judgment. It's an emotional reaction that often arises when we feel wronged, frustrated, or powerless. While anger can sometimes be a natural response to injustice, unchecked anger can lead to rash decisions, harm to others, and a loss of control. The Stoics believed that anger was a destructive force that robbed us of our ability to reason and act in alignment with virtue. Rather than reacting with anger, the Stoics taught us to approach situations with calmness and clarity. considering how to respond in a way that aligns with our values. Pride is another vice that can lead us astray. It's an inflated sense of self importance that makes us feel superior to others. Pride blinds us to our flaws, prevents us from learning from others, and often leads to arrogance and isolation. It can cause us to dismiss others' perspectives and become disconnected from reality. The Stoics believed that true humility, recognizing our imperfections and the need to learn from others, is the antidote to pride. By accepting that we are all on a journey of growth, we avoid the trap of self righteousness and open ourselves up to wisdom and learning. Laziness, or the lack of self discipline, is another vice that prevents us from reaching our potential. It's the tendency to avoid effort, resist hard work, and procrastinate on what truly matters. While it's natural to seek comfort, the Stoics taught that laziness ultimately leads to dissatisfaction and regret. To live a virtuous life, we must develop the discipline to take action and do the work necessary for growth, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. The Stoics taught that cultivating virtues and avoiding vices is a lifelong process. It's not about being perfect, it's about striving to become better each day. Virtue is the path to true freedom because it helps us live in alignment with our nature and our highest values. By understanding the power of virtues and vices, we gain the ability to make conscious choices that move us closer to the kind of person we want to be. Through self awareness, practice, and reflection, we can gradually replace vices with virtues, leading to a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling. Chapter 6: Practical Wisdom: Navigating Life's Challenges. Life is a journey filled with unexpected twists and turns, challenges that seem impossible to overcome, and moments when we feel lost. In times like these, we often search for answers, guidance, or a sense of direction. But what if the key to handling life's complexities isn't just in the answers we find, but in the way we approach the challenges themselves? This is where practical wisdom comes in, a concept that the Stoics valued deeply. Practical wisdom is the ability to navigate life's difficulties with clarity, reason, and virtue. It's not about having all the answers, but about knowing how to respond thoughtfully and appropriately to whatever life throws at us. Practical wisdom is rooted in the idea that we are responsible for how we respond to life's circumstances. While we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we react. The Stoics taught that we must use our rational minds to make decisions that align with our values and virtues, rather than being swept away by emotions or external circumstances. This doesn't mean we ignore our feelings or deny the reality of difficult situations. It means that we cultivate the wisdom to recognize what is within our control and focus our energy on what we can change. In practical terms, this could mean staying calm in a stressful situation, considering the long term consequences of our choices, or making decisions that reflect our highest values, even when it's hard. One of the key elements of practical wisdom is the ability to discern between what is truly important and what isn't. In our fast paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the distractions of everyday life: work deadlines, social media, obligations, and the pressure to keep up with others. But practical wisdom teaches us to step back and ask ourselves, what really matters? What will bring me lasting fulfillment? What aligns with my deepest values? By focusing on what truly matters, we can avoid the trap of chasing after empty goals or getting lost in the noise of the world. We learn to prioritize the things that align with our purpose and let go of the things that distract us from it. Practical wisdom also involves understanding the nature of life itself, its impermanence, its unpredictability, and its inevitable ups and downs. The Stoics believe that life is full of change, and we must learn to accept this with grace and flexibility. The more we resist life's challenges, the more we suffer. But by practicing wisdom, we can learn to embrace the impermanence of life and face challenges with resilience. This doesn't mean we become passive or apathetic, but rather that we approach life's difficulties with a sense of acceptance, knowing that change is a natural part of the human experience. Instead of trying to control everything around us, we focus on cultivating the strength to navigate whatever comes our way. Another important aspect of practical wisdom is the ability to act with virtue in the face of adversity. The Stoics believed that challenges and hardships weren't obstacles to happiness, but opportunities to practice virtue. When life gets tough, we have the chance to demonstrate courage, patience, resilience, and justice. These virtues allow us to maintain our integrity and keep moving forward, even when circumstances are difficult. For example, if we lose a job, Instead of succumbing to despair or frustration, we can use that moment to demonstrate resilience, to reflect on what we can learn from the experience, and to continue pursuing our goals with determination. If we face a personal conflict, we can choose to act with kindness and fairness, even when others may not. In this way, challenges become a training ground for developing and expressing our virtues. Practical wisdom is also about learning to live in accordance with our nature and recognizing that we are part of a larger, interconnected world. The Stoics taught that we must not only focus on our own lives, but also consider how our actions affect others. Life is not just about our individual success or happiness. It's about contributing to the well-being of those around us and the greater good of society. This perspective helps us avoid selfishness and narrow-mindedness, encouraging us to act with compassion, fairness, and integrity. While the idea of practical wisdom can seem abstract, it is ultimately about living with intention, making conscious choices, and using our rational minds to navigate life's challenges. In every situation, we can ask ourselves, what is the wise choice here? What is the virtuous thing to do? What aligns with my values and my purpose? By practicing practical wisdom, we become more adept at making decisions that lead to fulfillment, peace, and growth, rather than getting caught in the cycle of impulsive reactions or negative patterns. The Stoics didn't view practical wisdom as something we are born with, but as a skill that can be cultivated through practice, reflection, and self discipline. It's about training ourselves to think clearly, to respond thoughtfully, and to act in alignment with our highest values. It's also about understanding that mistakes and setbacks are a part of the process. We won't always make the right decision, but by reflecting on our choices and learning from them, we can continue to grow in wisdom. In the end, practical wisdom is about living a life of purpose, integrity, and peace, no matter what challenges we face. It's about understanding that life is full of uncertainty, but by using our rational minds and virtuous hearts, we can navigate it with clarity, confidence, and grace. The Stoics believed that anyone could develop this wisdom, regardless of their circumstances. It wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect situation. It was about cultivating the strength and clarity to face life as it is and to navigate it in a way that reflects our best selves. Chapter 7: Courage: How to be Unshakable. Courage is often seen as something extraordinary, an act of heroism, a fearless leap into the unknown, or a bold move in the face of danger. However, the Stoics understood courage differently. For them, courage wasn't just about grand gestures, it was about the quiet strength to face life's difficulties head on, with dignity, without being swayed by fear or doubt. Courage, according to the Stoics, is the ability to confront challenges with resolve, whether they are physical, emotional, or intellectual. It's about standing firm in the face of adversity, maintaining our composure when things are tough, and doing what is right, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. The Stoics taught that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Fear is a natural part of the human experience, whether it's the fear of failure, loss, or the unknown. But courage doesn't mean we never feel fear. It means that we don't let fear control us or dictate our actions. Instead of letting fear hold us back, we choose to act in a way that aligns with our values, even if we are afraid. This understanding of courage makes it accessible to everyone. It's something we can practice in the smallest, everyday moments, not just in times of crisis. Take, for example, the courage to speak up when we disagree with someone. It may be uncomfortable to voice our opinion, especially if it goes against the grain of popular belief. But true courage lies in that moment when we stand firm in our convictions, despite the fear of being rejected or criticized. Similarly, courage is needed when we face personal struggles, when we confront our own shortcomings, emotional pain, or fears of failure. The Stoics believe that the real test of courage comes when we choose to act, no matter how daunting the challenge may seem. One of the key lessons about courage in Stoic philosophy is the importance of knowing what truly matters. When we align ourselves with our core values, we gain the strength to face any difficulty. Courage isn't about being reckless or acting without thinking. It's about making choices that reflect our highest principles, even in the face of fear, discomfort, or uncertainty. The Stoics understood that fear often arises from our attachment to things beyond our control, wealth, status, or the approval of others. When we realize that these things are not essential to our well being, we become more resilient in the face of fear. For example, if we fear losing our job, it's often because we tie our self worth to that job. But when we recognize that our value doesn't depend on external circumstances, the fear of losing the job becomes less overwhelming. Courage allows us to detach from these fears and act according to what is truly important to us. Courage is also deeply connected to endurance, the ability to keep going even when the road ahead seems long or impossible. Life is full of challenges that test our patience and perseverance. Whether it's dealing with a tough situation at work, a personal setback, or a period of hardship, we need courage to endure and keep moving forward. The Stoics taught that we should embrace adversity, not as something to be feared or avoided, but as an opportunity to practice courage and resilience. Every difficulty is a chance to grow stronger, to prove to ourselves that we can handle whatever life throws at us. In Stoic philosophy, there's also the concept of accepting what we cannot change. Courage isn't just about fighting against external challenges, it's also about accepting those things beyond our control and finding the strength to move forward despite them. This requires understanding the difference between what is within our power to change and what isn't. Often, we waste energy and become frustrated by things outside of our control, other people's actions, the weather, or global events. But courage allows us to accept these things with grace, focusing instead on what we can control: our reactions, our mindset, and our choices. The Stoics emphasize the importance of developing courage through practice. Like any other virtue, courage requires effort and continuous cultivation. We don't become courageous overnight. It's a gradual process that involves taking small steps toward greater bravery each day. The Stoics believe that every challenge, no matter how small, is an opportunity to practice courage. Whether it's facing a difficult conversation, taking on a challenging project, or pushing through a period of discomfort, each of these moments helps us build our courage and mental resilience. Courage is not about ignoring fear or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about recognizing fear for what it is and choosing to move forward regardless. The Stoics taught that fear often stems from our imagination. It's the mind's way of anticipating negative outcomes or creating worst-case scenarios. But courage allows us to see beyond these fearful thoughts and focus on what we can control. By shifting our focus away from fear and toward action, we regain our power and find the strength to keep moving forward. In the Stoic view, courage also means facing death itself. While this may sound daunting, the Stoics believed that by accepting the inevitability of death, we free ourselves from the fear of it. When we stop fearing death, we stop fearing the loss of things, the end of experiences, or the unknown future. This acceptance allows us to live more fully in the present, unshackled by the anxieties that hold many people back. The Stoics argued that true courage isn't just about facing external dangers, but about embracing life fully, without being paralyzed by the fear of death or loss. Ultimately, courage is about being unshakable in our commitment to living a virtuous life. It's about standing firm in our values and principles, regardless of the challenges or obstacles that arise. It's about having the strength to be who we are, even when it's difficult, and choosing to act in a way that reflects our true nature. Courage isn't just an external quality, but an inner strength that enables us to face life's ups and downs with grace, dignity, and resilience. By cultivating courage, we unlock the potential to live our best lives, unshaken by fear and unwavering in our pursuit of virtue. Chapter 8: Justice: How to Work with Others. Justice, in the Stoic sense, is not just about following laws or doing what is legally right. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and working toward the common good. It's about how we treat others and interact with the world around us. At its core, justice is about fairness, equality, and ensuring that everyone's rights and dignity are respected. The Stoics believe that living a just life means treating others with respect, acting with integrity, and striving to do what's right, even when it's difficult. Justice starts with recognizing that we are all interconnected. The Stoics taught that we are not isolated beings, but a part of a greater whole, a larger community with whom we share the world. This interconnectedness means that our actions affect others, and the well-being of one person is linked to the well-being of others. Therefore, when we make decisions, we should consider how they will impact those around us. Justice requires that we treat others not as means to an end, but as ends in themselves, deserving of the same dignity, respect, and consideration that we would want for ourselves. In practice, Justice often means being fair and impartial in our dealings with others. It's easy to favor those we are close to or who share our views. But true justice calls us to go beyond personal biases and act with fairness toward everyone. Whether in the workplace, in our relationships, or in the community, we are constantly faced with situations where we must make choices that affect others. Justice requires that we consider the impact of those choices and ensure that we treat others with fairness and respect, regardless of their position, status, or background. The Stoics also believed that justice involves fulfilling our social roles and responsibilities. Each of us plays a part in the greater social fabric, and living justly means understanding and fulfilling the duties of those roles. Whether we are a parent, a teacher, a friend, or a colleague, we have obligations to others, and it's our responsibility to meet those obligations with integrity and commitment. Justice requires that we act in ways that contribute to the common good, whether by supporting a colleague in need, helping a neighbor, or being a responsible member of our community. By fulfilling our roles, we contribute to a harmonious and just society. However, justice is not always easy. It often involves making tough decisions that may not be popular or simple to follow. There may be times when we must stand up for what is right, even when it's inconvenient or others might disagree. The Stoics believed that justice sometimes requires confronting injustices, both on a small scale and in larger society. This could involve standing up to a bully, challenging discriminatory practices, or speaking out against corruption. Justice demands courage, even if it means going against the grain or facing resistance. A key aspect of Stoic justice is understanding what is within our control and what is not. While we cannot control others' actions, we can control our responses to them. When faced with injustice, the Stoics advised responding with reason instead of emotion. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we can choose to act with calmness and clarity, addressing the issue fairly and justly. By doing so, we align with our values and contribute to creating a more just and harmonious world. Justice also involves practicing empathy and understanding. It's about seeing things from others' perspectives and recognizing their needs, struggles, and desires. The Stoics emphasize that our shared humanity should guide our interactions. By practicing empathy, we gain a better understanding of the circumstances influencing people's actions and decisions. This enables us to respond with compassion and fairness, even in difficult situations. At the heart of Stoic justice is the idea that virtue is a collective endeavor. The Stoics believe that living a virtuous life isn't just about improving ourselves, it's also about contributing to the greater good. Justice is an active pursuit. It's not enough to simply avoid wrongdoing. We must actively seek to contribute to others' well being. This means looking for ways to help, support, and uplift those around us. Whether through our work, relationships, or community involvement, justice requires us to play an active role in making the world a better place. In every action, the Stoics encouraged us to ask, how will this affect others? Is this decision fair? The pursuit of justice is not just about grand gestures. It's in the small, everyday choices we make. It's in the way we speak to others, how we treat them when no one is watching, and how we engage with the world. Justice is about the integrity of our actions, the honesty of our intentions, and the fairness with which we treat others. True justice, according to the Stoics, is rooted in virtue. It's about being in harmony with nature, reason, and the collective good. It's not about perfection, but about striving for fairness and doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Justice is not just an abstract concept, it's something we must live daily through our words and deeds. When we approach life with a sense of justice, we cultivate peace, harmony, and respect, not just within ourselves, but in the world around us. Justice, like other virtues, requires continual practice. The Stoics didn't see it as something we achieve once and for all, but as an ongoing process of striving to do what's right, despite the challenges. Every day presents us with new opportunities to practice justice, whether in our interactions with others or in our choices. Through consistent practice and reflection, we become more just and, in turn, contribute to a more just world. Chapter 9: Temperance: How to Live in Harmony. Temperance is the Stoic virtue that emphasizes moderation, self-control, and balance in all areas of life. It's not about depriving ourselves of pleasure, but rather about understanding the right limits for everything. The Stoics believed that we should strive for inner harmony, avoiding extremes and cultivating a life that is neither excessive nor lacking. Temperance is the key to living in harmony with our desires, like emotions and actions, allowing us to enjoy life's pleasures without being overwhelmed by them. At its core, temperance is about self mastery. It involves controlling our impulses and desires rather than letting them dominate us. It's about recognizing that true happiness doesn't lie in the endless pursuit of more pleasure, more possessions, or more success, but in the ability to find contentment with what we have. The Stoics taught that happiness should not depend on external factors, but on our ability to maintain inner peace, regardless of our circumstances. By practicing temperance, we learn to detach ourselves from the constant desire for more and find satisfaction in the present moment. The value of temperance lies in its ability to help us avoid distractions and excesses that can pull us away from what truly matters. In today's world, we are constantly encouraged to consume more, achieve more, and always seek the next big thing. But the Stoics understood that these desires can lead to dissatisfaction and restlessness. True contentment comes not from accumulating things, but from cultivating a sense of enough. By practicing temperance, we redirect our focus from the never ending chase for more to the cultivation of virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. Temperance also helps us manage the emotions that often drive our actions. Emotions like fear, anger, and desire can push us toward excess, whether it's overindulging in food, spending recklessly, or seeking validation from others. The Stoics believed that the problem isn't the emotions themselves, but how we react to them. Temperance allows us to acknowledge our emotions without being controlled by them. It teaches us to respond thoughtfully and with self control, rather than acting impulsively or recklessly. By practicing temperance, we become better at managing our emotions and making decisions that align with our long term well being. One of the key lessons of temperance is living in harmony with nature. For the Stoics, nature served as a guiding principle for understanding how to live a good life. By observing nature, we see that everything has its proper place and function. Just as a tree grows to its full potential within the limits of its environment, we too must learn to live within the boundaries that nature provides. Temperance teaches us to recognize these boundaries and live in a way that aligns with them. This means avoiding overindulgence in food, drink, or material possessions, and instead focusing on what is essential and in line with our values. Living in harmony with nature also means accepting that we cannot control everything. There will always be things beyond our control, other people's actions, the state of the world, and even the natural processes of life and death. Temperance helps us accept these realities with grace, without falling into frustration or despair. It teaches us to focus on what we can control, our responses, attitudes, and choices, and to let go of the need to control everything around us. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of temperance in our relationships. In a world that often encourages competition, comparison, and rivalry, temperance reminds us to avoid excessive attachment to others' opinions or approval. When we become overly concerned with how others perceive us, we become vulnerable to manipulation and are more likely to act in ways that are not in alignment with our true values. Temperance helps us cultivate healthy, balanced relationships based on mutual respect rather than seeking validation or approval. In practicing temperance, the Stoics taught that we should avoid pursuing pleasure for its own sake. While pleasure is not inherently bad, when we seek it in excess, it can lead us away from the path of virtue. True happiness is not found in the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, but in living a life of meaning, purpose, and self control. Temperance teaches us to enjoy life's pleasures in moderation, without letting them consume us or distract us from what is truly important. Temperance also involves recognizing the value in simplicity. In a world that often glorifies luxury and excess, the Stoics believed true contentment comes from embracing simplicity and focusing on the essentials. By simplifying our lives and cutting out distractions, we can focus on what truly matters: our personal growth, relationships, and contribution to the greater good. Temperance encourages us to let go of unnecessary possessions, avoid materialism, and live a life rich in experiences and wisdom, rather than one weighed down by excess. The Stoics also believe that temperance requires continual practice. It is not something achieved once and for all, but a lifelong journey of self discipline and self reflection. Every day presents new opportunities to practice temperance, whether in our eating habits, spending choices, or how we respond to our emotions. Through constant practice, we cultivate a deep sense of inner peace and contentment, regardless of external circumstances. At the heart of temperance is balance. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure or living ascetically, but about finding the right balance between pleasure and restraint. By practicing temperance, we learn to enjoy life's pleasures without becoming enslaved to them. We become more mindful of our desires and make choices that align with our long term well being. In doing so, we cultivate a life of harmony, balance, and fulfillment. Ultimately, temperance is about living in accordance with our true nature. It's about understanding our desires and emotions and learning to manage them in a way that brings peace and contentment. It's about finding balance in all aspects of our lives: relationships, work, leisure, and our internal world. By practicing temperance, we create space for the things that truly matter and cultivate a life aligned with our deepest values. Chapter 10: God or Atoms? The Stoics approach the profound question about the nature of existence by asking whether the universe is governed by divine will or simply the result of atoms and natural laws. The answer is not a straightforward yes or no, but a nuanced exploration of both ideas. For the Stoics, the divine and the natural world are not separate but intricately connected, demonstrating that the two are not necessarily opposed but instead deeply intertwined. The Stoics believed in the concept of logos, a rational principle that governs the universe. The logos is the divine reason or universal law that orders everything, from the smallest particles to the vast expanses of galaxies. They viewed the logos as a divine intelligence that permeates all things, ensuring that the universe operates according to rational principles. In the Stoic worldview, everything happens for a reason, and even apparent chaos is part of a greater rational order. While the Stoics embraced the idea of a rational, ordered universe, they also subscribed to a materialistic view that the world is made up of atoms. Everything in the universe, including human beings, is composed of these tiny, indivisible particles that combine and recombine according to natural laws. This materialistic perspective might seem to conflict with the notion of a divine force, but the Stoics reconciled these views by understanding the logos as a rational organizing principle embedded within the natural world itself. The divine, they believed, is expressed through the very fabric of the material universe. For the Stoics, the divine and the material world are not two distinct realms. They are two aspects of the same reality. The Logos is not an external, anthropomorphic God. Rather, it is the rational force within nature that orders and organizes everything. The universe, in the Stoic view, is both rational and material, and it is through reason that humans can align themselves with the natural order, living in harmony with the Logos. Thus, for the Stoics, the idea of God and the concept of atoms are not mutually exclusive. The divine is not something separate from the material world. It is present within it, shaping and guiding it. The Stoic perspective teaches that by understanding the rational principles that govern nature and by living in accordance with them, humans can live virtuously and in harmony with the universe. The universe is both divine and material, and the pursuit of virtue is about understanding and aligning ourselves with this deeper, rational order. Chapter 11: Dealing with Anger, Anxiety, and Loneliness. Life is filled with challenges, and sometimes those challenges bring intense emotions: anger, anxiety, and loneliness that can feel overwhelming. The Stoics recognize that these emotions are a part of being human, but they also believe that we have the power to control how we respond to them. Stoic philosophy offers valuable insights on how to manage these emotions in a healthy, constructive way. Anger, according to the Stoics, often arises when we want things to be different than they are. It emerges when we feel that our expectations have been violated, whether due to someone's behavior or a situation outside our control. The Stoics taught that anger only harms the person who experiences it, creating internal turmoil and disrupting peace of mind. Rather than allowing anger to take control, they encourage self-reflection and the recognition that the actions of others are beyond our control. By focusing on what we can control, our own reactions, we can avoid being consumed by anger. The Stoics believe that instead of reacting with rage, we should respond with patience, understanding, and perspective. We are responsible for how we interpret others' actions and how we allow those actions to affect us. Anxiety, too, often stems from focusing on things beyond our control. It is rooted in fear of the future, fear of what might happen, or fear of the unknown. The Stoics understood that worrying about things we can't control only steals our peace of mind and productivity. Instead, they encouraged us to focus on what is within our control, our actions, choices, and attitudes. By cultivating acceptance, accepting life's uncertainties and acknowledging that we can't control everything, we free ourselves from the grip of anxiety. The Stoics believed that by focusing on the present moment and taking calm, purposeful actions toward what we can influence, we can relieve much of our anxiety. They emphasized that the future is uncertain and that it is better to prepare for it with calmness than to stress over it. Loneliness, though often painful, was another emotion the Stoics addressed with wisdom. They acknowledged that solitude is a natural part of life and believed it could be an opportunity for self reflection and personal growth. While loneliness can feel isolating, it also offers a chance to turn inward and strengthen our inner resources. The Stoics emphasize that our worth does not depend on external validation or the presence of others. It is rooted in our own character and virtue. By focusing on developing our inner strength and maintaining self worth, we can navigate loneliness without feeling helpless or lost. The Stoics believe that solitude can teach us valuable lessons about resilience, independence, and the ability to enjoy our own company. The Stoic approach to these emotions is not about suppressing or denying them, but about changing our relationship with them. Rather than letting anger dictate our behavior or allowing anxiety or loneliness to control our state of mind, the Stoics encourage us to approach these emotions with wisdom and self discipline. They urge us to reflect on our values and priorities, recognize what is truly in our control, and respond to challenges with a calm, rational mindset. Ultimately, the Stoic teachings on anger, anxiety, and loneliness empower us to take charge of our emotions. Instead of being swept away by them, we can choose how to respond in ways that align with our values and long term well being. Through self reflection, acceptance, and focusing on what is within our control, we can transform these challenging emotions into opportunities for growth and resilience. The Stoic way is not to eliminate emotions, but to cultivate a deeper understanding of them and choose how we engage with them, leading to a more peaceful and purposeful life. Chapter 12, Dying with Dignity. Death is an inevitable part of life, yet it remains a topic many prefer to avoid or fear. The Stoics, however, saw death not as something to fear, but as a natural and essential part of existence. They believed that how we approach death is just as important as how we live our lives. The Stoics taught that dying with dignity means accepting death with calm, grace, and understanding, and that by doing so, we can live our lives more fully and meaningfully. The Stoics understood that we cannot control when or how we will die. Death, in their view, is an external event beyond our influence, and the only thing we can control is our attitude toward it. Rather than denying or resisting the reality of death, the Stoics encouraged us to embrace it as part of the natural order. By contemplating death regularly, they believed we could reduce our fear of it and live more authentically with a clear sense of purpose. This practice, known as memento mori, or remember that you will die, serves as a reminder of the preciousness of time and the importance of living each day with intention. The Stoic approach to death is not about seeking to die or avoiding life, but about accepting death as a natural part of existence. The Stoics taught that living a good life is more important than fearing how or when we will die. Death is beyond our control, but how we live and face the end of our lives is entirely within our power. By living virtuously and in accordance with nature, we can die with dignity, without fear, regret, or unnecessary suffering. A key Stoic principle in facing death is detachment from external things. The Stoics believe that our happiness should not be tied to material possessions, status, or other external factors, because these things are temporary and beyond our control. Instead, they argued that true happiness comes from living in accordance with virtue, acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When we detach from the fleeting nature of material things, we can approach death with peace, knowing that we have lived a life true to our values. The Stoics also believe that death should not be feared because it is not an end but a transition. For them, death is merely the return of our bodies to the universe from which they came. taught just as a plant returns to the earth. In this view, death is not something to fear, but an inevitable part of the life cycle. By accepting this, we are able to live more freely, without the burden of fearing the unknown. Embracing death as a natural part of life allows us to embrace life itself with greater clarity and purpose. When it comes to dying with dignity, the Stoics emphasize the importance of living a life of integrity, especially towards the end. A Stoic approach to death involves maintaining virtue even in the face of suffering or uncertainty. In their view, it is far better to die with a clear conscience, knowing we've lived a life of purpose and virtue, than to cling to life in fear or denial. As Epictetus famously said, it's not death that we should fear, but never beginning to live. In practical terms, this means accepting death when it arrives without regret. It means facing death with courage and dignity, recognizing that we've done all we can to live according to our values. The Stoics believed that the fear of death often prevents us from living fully. By accepting death, we are better able to focus on living well in the present. At the heart of the Stoic approach to dying with dignity is the concept of amor fati, or the love of fate. This teaches us to embrace whatever happens, including death, as part of our journey. Instead of resisting the inevitable, the Stoics encourage us to meet it with acceptance, seeing it as a natural part of life's flow. This mindset allows us to die peacefully, knowing we've lived according to our nature, done our best, and accepted the inevitable with grace. Dying with dignity, therefore, is not just about how we face death, but also about how we live. The Stoics believed that a life well lived, one marked by virtue, wisdom, and integrity, naturally leads to a dignified death. When we live in harmony with nature and act according to our highest values, we prepare ourselves not only for a peaceful death, but also for a life rich in meaning, purpose, and tranquility. By embracing the reality of death and living each day as if it were our last, we ensure that when the end comes, we can face it with the dignity and peace that result from a life well lived. Chapter 13: How to be a Stoic in the Modern World. The ancient Stoic philosophy, founded by thinkers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, might seem distant and irrelevant to modern life. However, Stoicism is deeply relevant today, offering valuable tools for navigating the complexities, distractions, and stress of the modern world. The core Stoic principles, mastering emotions, cultivating wisdom, and living in harmony with nature, can help us lead more peaceful, meaningful, and resilient lives in today's fast-paced, often chaotic environment. The first step in applying Stoic principles is understanding that we cannot control the world around us. Modern life bombards us with a constant flow of news, opinions, and events, many of which are beyond our control. Whether it's a global crisis, personal challenges, or the actions of others, there is no shortage of stress-inducing factors. Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what is in our control: our thoughts, actions, and responses. While we cannot control others or the outcomes of events, we can control how we choose to respond. Accepting that we cannot control everything is liberating and helps free us from unnecessary stress and anxiety. Another important Stoic lesson is the value of living according to our values. In today's world, it's easy to be distracted by materialism, external validation, and the pursuit of success or status. Social media and consumer culture constantly push us to compare ourselves to others and define our self-worth through external achievements or possessions. Stoicism reminds us that true happiness comes from living a virtuous life, not from accumulating wealth or recognition. Living virtuously means acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in all areas of life. It's about focusing on what really matters, cultivating a strong character, nurturing meaningful relationships, and contributing positively to the world around us. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of being mindful of our time. In today's world, time feels like a scarce resource, and we often rush through life, consumed by obligations. We forget to pause and reflect on what's truly important. The Stoics encourage the practice of memento mori, remembering that our time is limited, suon, and each day is an opportunity to live intentionally. By reflecting on our mortality, we are reminded to prioritize what truly matters, make the most of our time, and live each day with purpose. This practice helps us focus on what genuinely contributes to our long-term well-being rather than getting lost in trivial distractions.